Have you ever wished you could have been born at a different era, like at a different time? I've had people tell me in casual conversation before they wish they could have been born like 100 years ago when America was really starting to boom, or thousands of years ago so that they could see places like ancient Rome or other ancient civilizations. If you ask me though, nah, I'm good right where I'm at. And there's no question that this time period in history is the absolute best time to be alive. And if you don't agree, you can fight me. Okay, but seriously, the 2000s onward are easily number one, specifically in places here like America. And that's not to say America's got everything together. Like, we got a ton of issues that we need to work out. But it's the best time to be alive because of the advancements in our technology and our knowledge. Whenever someone tells me they wish they were born at a different time period, I always say, oh, really? So whenever you get a toothache, you'd prefer the doctor just reach into your mouth and yank that sucker out with a rusty pair of pliers? Or whenever you get a cut on your leg and it gets infected, you want your uncle to hand you a leather belt and say, here, bite down on this and hack your whole leg off? Yeah, okay then. Medical research and development are seriously underappreciated, and they make this the greatest era by themselves. But on top of that, and more important for us right now, are the advancements in communication. See, in an instant, we can connect and communicate with anyone at literally any time. Many of us sport multiple devices that can transmit our voices and transcribe our words and get them to whoever we want in the blink of an eye. It's absolutely incredible. I don't think we appreciate it that much, not nearly as much as we should. It is incredible, especially when you consider the fact that this hasn't always been possible in my lifetime. It's been less than 30 years since this technology came to be, and for all of its potential faults and abuses, it is remarkably powerful. Having the ability to reach out to anyone at any time is something we should all be grateful for because we've all needed it at some point. Every one of us has found ourselves in situations and seasons where we really needed to hear a little bit of encouragement or advice from someone we love or respect. Or to put it another way, each of us has needed to borrow some strength from someone else because we're feeling stressed or tired, defeated, hurting, or we're afraid, and we don't have the strength to go on by ourselves. And even if life feels pretty good for you right now, the truth is we all have moments when we could borrow some strength from others. Right now, maybe it's you, or maybe it's someone you know. Either way, you live in a time where help and support from others are never out of reach. And what a blessing it is. Over the course of this series, we've talked a lot about our spiritual gifts. Ellis taught us how we could help one another discover those gifts. And once we've begun to do that, Lindsay encouraged us to find people who could help us discern what we should do with those gifts. And last week, Tanner coached us on how to cultivate those gifts by paying attention to who was speaking into our lives and making sure those voices were helping shape and guide us in positive ways. Of course, all of that is easier said than done. And the path toward discovering and discerning and developing your gifts doesn't always go the way you thought it would. Sometimes life gets really hard, and you and I will be tempted to lose the will to go on. And it's in those moments when we need strength from other people to keep going. In the last few weeks, we've read a lot about Paul's words of wisdom to Timothy. But what we're going to read today is going to be a little different. These are actually some of Paul's last words to Timothy. See, Paul was writing this letter from prison. Now, this wasn't the first time Paul had been in prison, but this one definitely stands out because he was about to die, and he knew it. And that actually raises the importance level of everything we've been reading and talking about for the last few weeks, doesn't it? I mean, Paul gave all of that advice to Timothy, knowing he might not get another chance. This guy who had done so many incredible things for God and exchanged so much wisdom with people was now alone in a jail cell, waiting for his death. Despite that, though, check out these final words to Timothy. As for me, my life has already been poured out as an offering to God. The time of my death is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race, and I have remained faithful. Timothy, please come as soon as you can. Demas has deserted me because he loves the things of this life and has gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, and Titus has gone to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Bring Mark with you when you come, for he will be helpful to me in my ministry. The first time I was brought before the judge, no one came with me. Everyone abandoned me. May it not be counted against them. But the Lord has stood with me and gave me strength, so that I might preach the good news in its entirety for all the Gentiles to hear. And he rescued me from certain death. Yes, and the Lord will deliver me from every evil attack and will bring me safely into his heavenly kingdom. All glory to God forever and ever. To recap, Paul has been deserted by one guy. His other friends are in different cities. Everyone has abandoned him. And, oh yeah, as we already mentioned, he was in prison about to die. It'd be completely reasonable for Paul to be struggling in this season of his life. But did you catch what he said toward the end there? He said, the Lord stood with me and gave me strength. He goes on to say he knows God will protect him even if he dies. He's confident in God, and that's where his strength comes from. Now, I know you're not in the same circumstances, Paul, thank goodness, but regardless of the specifics of your struggles, you can find your strength in the same place God did, or Paul did, in God. God is the ultimate source of strength for you and for me, and he's always looking out for you. He's always there for you. He's always working for the good of those who love him. Psalm 121 famously puts it this way, I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? Nah, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The Lord keeps you from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever. So when Paul asked Timothy to come be with him, it's not because Paul needs strength that only Timothy can give. He's already found that in God. But, and this is the critical piece that I'm trying to point out to you today, I do believe Paul often felt God's strength through the support and comfort of his friends, including Timothy. See, God often uses other people to remind us of the things we just read in Psalm 121, that he is always with us, that our help comes from him, that he goes with us both now and forever. We help each other see where God is working in our lives. We share stories of all the amazing things we've seen God do. And because of those stories, we become more confident that he can do the same thing in our lives too. This is what Paul and Timothy did for one another. And it's what we need to do for each other too. When we're tired, stressed, upset, afraid, defeated, or hurting, we can exchange support with each other. When life is difficult, we can help each other find strength. Now, we're going to talk about this more in small groups in just a minute. But before we do, I want you to take a look around you right now. In the room you're in, whatever campus you're at, even if you're at home, there might be somebody around you right now. Just take a look around. It's filled with people. That space is filled with people who can help you find strength when you're going through a tough time. It's also filled with people who need someone like you to help them find strength when they're going through a hard time. The truth is, we can't be each other's ultimate, never failing, always available sources of strength. Us on our own, we're not capable of that kind of support. But that's okay, because God is. And it's our job to help each other find strength in him. So how do we do this? What can we do when we know or suspect someone we care about needs a little extra strength? Well, we can start by praying. And don't just say you'll pray for somebody. We're all guilty of this, and that's okay. I've done that before. I say I'll pray and I don't do it. But when you say you'll pray for somebody, really do it. And when you pray for them, let them know. Utilize our amazing instant technology and shoot them a text that says, hey, I prayed for you today. How are things? When you let someone know that you're praying for them, you're not only letting them know that they're not alone and that you've asked God to work on their behalf, you're also pointing them back to God, the ultimate source of strength. But praying for someone isn't the only thing you can do or should do to help them find strength. You should also help. Now, that might sound ridiculous and obvious, but what I mean is when someone is struggling, sometimes they need like tangible help, physical, in-person help. Like they might need somebody to talk to face to face. Their family might need help paying rent. They might need help finding a trusted adult to confide in. Or they just might need a little help with a big project that's really got them stressed out. Whatever their need is, when you show up in person to help, you let them borrow some of your strength for a moment. And it shows that God shows up for them too. It's God's love in action. And if you're not sure how to help somebody, that's okay. You don't need to know all the answers. You just need to be willing to ask the question, how can I help you right now? Finally, you need to encourage. Sometimes someone just needs a kind word or some gentle reassurance that they're going to be okay. Sometimes it's hard to know what to say when our friends are struggling, though. I get that. We might be afraid of saying the wrong thing and making a situation worse or saying something overly cliche. But what's worse is when we don't say anything at all. So even if you're not sure, maybe start with, I'm here for you, or I care about you, or we're going to get through this together. Giving and receiving support from each other, it's not a sign of weakness, y'all. It's actually a sign of strength and courage. When life gets difficult, there's so many ways we can exchange support. But we don't do that by trying to be each other's ultimate source of strength forever. We do it by helping each other know that we're not alone and that God is our ultimate source of strength. That's how we'll really help each other find